My hand was trembling, but not from the chill in the fancy Chicago restaurant. Khalid, my soon-to-be fiancé, squeezed my fingers under the table. His warmth gave me the last bit of courage I needed. My mother, Neith, was telling a long, boring story about her garden club, while my brother, Seti, stared at his phone. "Mom." "Seti," I interrupted. They both looked up, annoyed. I held up my left hand. The diamond, a simple, beautiful solitaire Khalid had picked out, caught the light. "Khalid and I. We're engaged." I expected a smile. Maybe a hug. Instead, Seti snorted and looked back at his phone. My mother's painted-on smile froze. Then she let out a short, cold laugh that sounded like breaking glass. It was a sound I knew well. It was the sound that came before she tore me down. "Engaged," she said, dabbing her lips with a napkin. "How quaint." She looked past me at Khalid, as if he were a waiter. "Well, that's lovely, dear. But of course, you'll have to postpone it." My stomach dropped. "What? Why?" Neith sighed, as if I were a child asking a stupid question. Her eyes turned to ice. "Don't be dramatic. Your brother needs $80,000 for his new business venture. It's all sorted. I already told him you'd provide it." I stared, my throat closing up. "You, what?" "Family first, Amira," she said, cutting into her steak. "This silly little wedding can wait. Your brother's future can't." The demand just hung there, sucking all the air and joy out of the room. My engagement wasn't a celebration. It was a problem for her to solve. The car ride back to my apartment was dead silent. The heavy, suffocating silence was worse than yelling. Khalid gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. I could feel the anger radiating off him, but I was just numb, frozen. The ring on my finger suddenly felt heavy, like a metal weight pulling my hand down. This was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. Instead, my mother had put a price tag on it. This was the story of my life. I wasn't a daughter. I was a utility. I was the responsible one, the one who worked hard, the one who became a structural engineer while my brother, Seti, failed at everything. I was the one who paid for Seti's first car after he crashed the one Mom bought him. I was the one who paid his rent for 6 months after he got laid off from a job I knew he'd just stopped going to. I was the one who quietly covered Neitha's credit card bills when she overspent at the spa. I was their family ATM. But I had never, ever told them how much I really made. I had kept my success quiet, hiding it like a dirty secret, because I knew this day would come. I knew they would see it not as something I had earned, but as something they were owed. $80,000, I whispered into the darkness of the car. It wasn't a question. It was a death sentence for the little bit of hope I had left. This moment, my moment, had been stolen from me in less than 30 seconds. When we got back to our apartment, the numbness finally broke. The second Khalid closed the door, I started to shake. "She didn't even say congratulations," I whispered, and then the tears came. They weren't the happy tears I'd imagined. They were hot, angry, bitter tears. Khalid pulled me into a hug, his arms strong around me. "This isn't a request, Amira," he said, his voice low and furious. "This is extortion. She's holding your happiness for ransom. You know that, right?" "I know," I sobbed into his chest. "I'm just so tired. I'm so tired of this. Why isn't my happiness ever enough for her?" I was terrified of her disapproval. I had spent my entire life trying to earn a single "I'm proud of you" that never came. He gently tilted my chin up. "Hey, I'm on your side. We are on our side. You don't have to do this." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed on the counter. It was a text from Neith. My blood ran cold. I picked it up. The message read, "Don't be dramatic and don't make this difficult, Amira. I've already spoken to your Aunt Teddy about the real reason you can't say no. We'll talk tomorrow." I showed Khalid the phone. "Aunt Teddy? What does my dad's sister have to do with this?" The confusion was worse than the anger. A new kind of fear, cold and sharp, settled in my stomach. What real reason? What did my mother have on me? I couldn't sleep. The threat in that text message looped in my head. What real reason could there be? I didn't have any dark secrets. My life was an open book. Work, college, and trying to keep my family from falling apart. My phone rang at 7 a.m. It was Aunt Tetty. My heart hammered against my ribs as I answered. Amira. Her voice was thin and nervous. She lived in a different state, and we only spoke on holidays. Amira, your mother called me last night. She's implying things. What things, Aunt Tetty? I don't understand. She's demanding $80,000 and said you knew why I couldn't say no. There was a long pause, then a shaky breath. Amira, there's something you don't know about your father. I know he left you all, I said quietly. No, honey. He didn't just leave. He was driven out. I sat down on the edge of the bed. What are you talking about? Your mother. Neith, she ruined him, Teddy whispered, her voice cracking. He wanted a divorce, and she went crazy. He was a partner at his small accounting firm. She threatened to go to the police and his partners with fake documents, accusing him of stealing from his clients. She was going to destroy his career, send him to prison. I couldn't breathe. She wouldn't. Oh, she would, Teddy said bitterly. So, he signed everything away. His share of the house, his savings. And, Amira, he signed away his parental rights to you. She blackmailed him into giving you up. The real reason you can't say no isn't a secret you have. It's a threat. She's telling you, I destroyed your father, and I can destroy you too. I felt sick. My whole body was cold. The mother I knew was manipulative and selfish, but this was evil. Khalid was pale with rage. She's a monster, he said. This changes everything. Before I could even process the information from Aunt Teddy, my apartment buzzer rang. I looked at the security camera. It was Neith and Seti, standing on my doorstep, holding a box of pastries. My stomach churned. I buzzed them in, my mind still reeling. Khalid stood beside me, his arms crossed, a solid wall of support. Darling, Neith chirped, walking in like she owned the place. She pushed the pastries at me. I was just so emotional last night. You know how I get. We were thinking, and $80,000 is a lot. I stared at her, my heart pounding. Was this an apology? Seti flopped onto my couch and put his feet on my coffee table, already scrolling on his phone. Yeah, so Mom came up with a compromise, he said, not even looking at me. Neith smiled, a wide, fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. You don't have to give us the $80,000. We know you're saving for your thing. She waved a hand, dismissing my wedding. You just have to co-sign a small business loan for your brother. It's just a signature, sweetie. To show your support. The bank will approve it in a second with your credit. Seti smirked. Yeah, it's no big deal. I caught a glimpse of his phone screen. He wasn't looking at business supplies. He was looking at a website for luxury sports cars. A business loan, I repeated, my voice flat. The audacity of it was breathtaking. After finding out what she did to my father, I saw her in a whole new light. This wasn't a request. It was a trap. Khalid spoke up, his voice firm. What kind of business, exactly? Seti looked annoyed. An import-export thing. It's complicated. I'm sure it is, Khalid said. My mind, trained as an engineer, suddenly kicked into gear. For my entire life, I had reacted to them with emotion, with guilt and fear. Now I would react with logic. I can't co-sign anything without a business plan, I said. The words came out stronger than I expected. As an engineer, I review complex plans every day. Send me the full proposal. The cost analysis, the profit projections, the list of creditors. Everything. Seti scoffed. You don't trust me? It's not about trust. It's about due diligence, I said, using a term I knew he wouldn't understand. Neetha's smile tightened. Fine. Amira. If you insist on being difficult, he'll send you his little papers. They left, clearly annoyed that I hadn't just rolled over. The moment the door closed, I looked at Khalid. He's lying. There is no business. I know, he said. And we're not going to wait for his little papers. He picked up his phone. I have a friend who works in finance. He owes me a favor. He can run a discreet credit check on Seti. Let's see what business he's really in. We didn't have to wait long. Seti sent over a business plan that was a joke. It was 3 pages of vague sentences, full of buzzwords like synergy and disruption, with no real numbers. It looked like something he'd copied from a website 5 minutes before. This is garbage, I said, tossing it on the table. Of course it is, Khalid said. He just wants your signature. 2 hours later, Khalid's phone rang. He put it on speaker. It was his friend, Omar. Khalid. Hey, man. I ran that name for you, Omar said. His voice was grim. You were right to be suspicious. This guy, Seti, he's not starting a business. My stomach clenched. What did you find? He's in deep, Omar said. I'm not just talking credit card debt, though he has plenty of that. I'm talking high-interest gambling debts. From what I can see, he owes over $100,000. And not to a casino. I gripped the edge of the counter. What do you mean? The flags on his account. They look like loan shark activity, Khalid. Shady, unlisted creditors. These aren't people who send you polite letters. The floor dropped out from under me. This wasn't for a business. It wasn't even for a car. It was a bailout. The $80,000, I whispered, connecting the dots. It's not the full amount. It's just the first payment to get them off his back. Exactly, Omar said. And if you co-sign that loan, Amira, that debt becomes yours. They won't go after him. They'll come after you. Professionally. I was shaking, but this time, it was with pure cold rage. The lies. The manipulation. My mother hadn't just been trying to help her golden child start a business. She had been trying to chain me to my brother's dangerous, life-destroying debt. She was willing to sacrifice my entire future, my career, and my new life with Khalid to save Seti from his own consequences. I'm going over there, I said, grabbing my keys. I'm coming with you, Khalid said, his face set like stone. No, I said. Not this time. This is my family. I have to face them. Alone. I drove to my mother's house, the house I grew up in, the house my father had been blackmailed into signing away. I didn't knock. I used my old key and walked right in. They were in the living room, watching TV, laughing at some stupid sitcom. Turn it off, I said. My voice was so cold it startled them. Neith sat up, her smile fading. Amira, what a... I threw the credit report from Omar onto the coffee table. A business plan? An import-export business? You want me to co-sign a bailout for a loan shark? Seti's charm vanished instantly. His face turned ugly. Where did you get that? You have no right. You're just a selfish bitch. You always have been. You have the money. You think you're better than us just because you have a fancy job. Yes. I screamed, the word tearing out of my throat. I am better than this. I work for a living. I don't gamble away my future and expect someone else to clean up the mess. Seti lunged at me, his face red, but I didn't even flinch. I just stared at my mother, Neith, who hadn't moved. She was watching me, her expression unreadable. You knew, I whispered, the rage draining away, leaving only a vast, hollow emptiness. He's your son, and you knew he was in danger. You knew it was gambling. Neith calmly picked up a piece of lint from her sleeve. She straightened her pearls. Her face was a mask of perfect, cold composure. He's my son, she said, as if that explained everything. He made a mistake. The tears that had been threatening to fall all day suddenly pricked my eyes. He made a mistake, I repeated, my voice breaking. He's a grown man, and he's a gambling addict. And you tried to chain me to him. And what am I? I finally screamed the question that had lived in my heart my whole life. I'm your daughter. Don't I matter? Doesn't my life matter? My mother finally looked me dead in the eye. The mask of the caring, elegant woman fell away, and I saw the stranger underneath. She was cold, hard, and terrifying. You, she said, her voice quiet and venomous. You are the solution, Amira. That's what you've always been. You're the one who pays. You're the one who's strong enough to handle it. Now, be a good daughter and sign the papers. Your brother is in trouble. I stared at her, finally understanding. I wasn't her daughter. I was her tool. I was her shield. And she would let me be destroyed to protect the part of her family she actually loved. I just stared at her. The woman I had spent my entire life trying to please had just told me my only purpose was to be a human sacrifice. I looked at Seti, who was now smirking, his brief flash of anger gone, replaced by his usual arrogance. He knew he had won. He knew she would always choose him. And in that second, something inside me, something that had been bent for 30 years, finally snapped. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I felt nothing. Just ice. No, I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the room. Neitha's smile faltered. What did you say? No. I will not pay for this. I will not sign the papers. I will not set myself on fire to keep you warm. I picked up my keys from the table. I'm done. I turned and walked to the door. I could feel their stunned silence behind me. I had never said no before. Not really. As I grabbed the doorknob, Neitha's voice, now a low, dangerous hiss, followed me. You're making a mistake, Amira. I paused, my hand on the knob. If you walk away from this, she said, if you let this happen to your brother, you will lose more than just your family. I promise you that. It wasn't a desperate plea. It was a threat. It was the same threat she'd used on my father, the same one she'd used on Aunt Teddy. It was the promise of ruin. I didn't turn around. I just opened the door and walked out, letting it click shut behind me. I drove home, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. I kept replaying her words. You will lose more than just your family. What did she mean? What else could she possibly take from me? When I got to my apartment, Khalid was waiting. He took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. You did it, didn't you? You said no. I did, I whispered. And she threatened me, Khalid. Just like she did my father. She can't hurt you, he said, rubbing my back. You're not him. You're safe. I wanted to believe him. I went to my home office to try and get some work done, to feel normal. I had a big project presentation tomorrow. I sat down at my desk, my mind still racing. But as I looked at my desk, something felt wrong. It was neat. Too neat. I'm organized, but I always have my project files in a stack. The stack was gone. My blood ran cold. I looked at the shelf above my desk. My portfolio case was gone. It wasn't just any portfolio. It was my original, hand-drafted university thesis. It was the groundbreaking design for a sustainable bridge that had won me the national scholarship. It was the work that had gotten me my first job, the proof of my talent. It was irreplaceable. Then I remembered. The compromise. When Neith and Seti had come over. Neith had asked to use my bathroom. She must have walked right into my office and taken it. She was here for less than 10 minutes. She had planned this. She had planned to steal my work as leverage before she even offered the compromise. My knees felt weak. I sank into my office chair, my heart pounding in my ears. This was so much worse than I could have imagined. That portfolio wasn't just paper. It was my past and my future. It was the very foundation of my career. Khalid ran into the room. What is it? What's wrong? She stole it, I whispered, pointing to the empty space on the shelf. When she was here earlier, she stole my thesis portfolio. Khalid looked confused. Why? Why would she take that? As if on cue, my phone lit up on the desk. A ding that echoed in the silent room. A new text message from Neith. My hand trembled as I opened it. It was a picture. My beautiful, leather-bound portfolio case was sitting on her fireplace hearth. Next to it, she had placed a long-barreled fireplace lighter. The text underneath the photo read, "Looking for something? Such a pity if that beautiful work got misplaced, or perhaps damaged in a small, accidental fire. I'm so clumsy these days." I read the next text out loud, my voice hollow. "Find a way to get the money for your brother. You have 48 hours to fix this, Amira. Or I will." It wasn't just a threat to ruin my future like she did my father's. It was a ransom note. She was literally threatening to burn my career to the ground to pay off my brother's gambling debts. This time, I didn't break down. The shock was so profound, so cold, that it turned into something else. A terrifying, crystal-clear calm. This was no longer a family dispute. This was a crime. "She's insane," Khalid breathed, his face pale. "She's actually insane. Amira, we are calling the police. Right now." He was right. This was extortion, blackmail, theft. But a small, beaten-down part of me still hesitated. "The police? Khalid, she's my mother." "She is a criminal," he said, his voice hard. "She is threatening your entire livelihood. This stops now." He took my hand and pulled me out the door. "My sister's ex-husband. He's a lawyer. A shark. We're not going to my friend this time. We're going to a professional." 30 minutes later, we were sitting in a sleek, downtown office. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Ms. Hossan, listened to the entire story without blinking. I told her everything, the $80,000 demand, the blackmail against my father, the gambling debts, the stolen portfolio, the text message. She looked at the photo on my phone and nodded grimly. "Well, this is clean. This is felony extortion." "So we call the police?" I asked. "We can," Ms. Hossan said. "And they will be arrested. But that could be messy and public. And your mother might destroy that portfolio the second she hears a siren. So what do? "We treat it as a legal negotiation first," she said, her eyes glinting. "I will draft a formal cease and desist letter. It will demand the immediate return of your stolen property, and it will state that any further contact, or any damage to your property, will result in immediate criminal prosecution. We send it via courier. We give her no time to think." As Ms. Hossan drafted the letter, I stepped out into the hallway to breathe. My phone buzzed. It was Aunt Teddy. "Amira. I've been thinking all day. I'm so sorry. I should have told you about your father years ago." "It's okay, Aunt Teddy. You were scared. I understand." "No," she said, her voice stronger now. "I was a coward. She controlled me, just like she controlled him. But hearing what she's doing to you, it makes me sick." I took a deep breath. "It's worse than I told you. She stole my university thesis. She's holding it for ransom. She's threatening to burn it." Aunt Teddy was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was shaking with an anger I had never heard from her. "That monster. She did the same thing to me." "What? She blackmailed you too?" "Yes. But not just with a secret. When our grandmother, my mother, was dying, she gave me a set of diamond earrings. They were meant for me. Neith found out, and she stole them. Just took them from my jewelry box. I couldn't believe it. What did you do? Nothing, Teddy whispered, and I could hear her shame. I accused her, and she told me if I ever mentioned it again, she would tell the whole family I had a drinking problem in college. It was a lie, but I was young. I was scared. She stole my inheritance and blackmailed me into silence. Amira, this isn't about Seti's debt. This is who she is. She's a predator. She's been doing this her whole life. I hung up the phone. The lawyer's office felt cold. Teddy's story was the last piece of the puzzle. My mother wasn't a desperate woman trying to save her son. She was a lifelong thief and blackmailer. She preyed on the people who loved her because she knew they wouldn't fight back. The guilt I had felt, the hesitation about calling the police, the tiny, stupid flicker of hope that she would one day change, it all vanished. It was burned away by the cold, hard truth. I walked back into Ms. Hassan's office. She was printing out the letter. Stop, I said. She looked up, surprised. What's wrong? We're not sending the letter. Khalid looked at me. Amira, what are you thinking? She's a predator, I said, my voice steady. And she's not going to stop. A letter will just make her angry. She'll burn the portfolio, and she'll find another way to hurt me. She'll go after my job. She'll try to ruin me like she did my father. So what do we do? Ms. Hassan asked, leaning forward. My engineer's brain took over. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a strategist. We set a trap, I said. I'm going to play her game. I'm going to tell her I'll pay. But I'll do it in person. I'll get her on tape agreeing to the exchange. I'll get her to hand me my portfolio in exchange for a check. And you, I said, looking at the lawyer, are going to have the police waiting. Ms. Hassan stared at me for a second, and then a slow, sharp smile spread across her face. Okay, Amira, let's build your case. The next 24 hours were the most stressful of my life. I didn't go to work. I couldn't. Ms. Hassan, Khalid, and I planned every single step. We went to the police, filed a formal report, and showed them the text messages. The detectives were immediately on board. Extortion with physical evidence was an easy case. The plan was simple. I would be the broken daughter. I took a deep breath and texted Neith. You win. I can't let you destroy my work. I'll get the money. Her reply was almost instant. I knew you'd see sense. The $80,000. Wire it to my account. No, I texted back, my fingers flying. Not a wire transfer. I don't want a digital trail of this. I'll get a cashier's check. I'll give it to you in person. You bring my portfolio. We make the exchange, and this is over. I want to see your face when it's done. There was a long pause. I could feel her suspicion. She was smart. Fine, she finally replied. But not at my house. There's a check cashing place on the west side. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Come alone. I'll be there, I texted. I showed the message to the detectives. She's trying to control the location, one of them, Detective Miller, said. She thinks it's neutral ground. It's perfect, Ms. Hassan said. It's a public place of business. She won't be able to claim she was tricked into a private meeting. The bank gave me a real cashier's check for $80,000. It felt like poison in my purse. Khalid held my hands the night before. Are you sure you can do this? I have to, I said. This isn't just for me. It's for my father. It's for Aunt Tetty. It's for every person she's ever hurt. The check cashing place was small and smelled like stale air. It was in a part of town I never went to. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I was wearing a wire. 2 plainclothes detectives were already inside, pretending to be customers. Khalid was parked a block away, listening to the feed, with Ms. Hassan beside him. At 3:02 p.m., The door opened. Neith and Seti walked in. Seti looked smug, already counting the money in his head. Neith looked cold and impatient. She was holding my portfolio case. "You're late," she snapped. "I'm here," I said, my voice shaking a little. It wasn't hard to fake the fear. "Do you have it?" She held up the portfolio. "Do you have the check?" "It's right here." I pulled the envelope out of my purse. "Give me my work first." "Give me the check," she demanded. "No. I want to make sure it's not damaged." She scoffed and shoved the heavy case at me. "Fine. You're so dramatic." My fingers touched the familiar leather. I fumbled with the zipper, my hands shaking. I opened it. My drawings, my thesis, my work. It was all there. Safe. "It's all here," I whispered, relief washing over me. "Good." Neith snatched the envelope from my other hand. She opened it and her eyes lit up as she saw the cashier's check. "See, Amira, was that so hard? Family helps family. So, we're good," Seti said, stepping forward. "The money is..." "The money is evidence," said a new voice. Neith and Seti spun around. The two customers were walking toward them, flipping open their badges. "Neith and Seti, last name?" Detective Miller said. "You're under arrest for extortion, blackmail, and theft by deception." Seti's arrogant smirk vanished. His face went white with panic. "What? No. She's lying. She offered to pay. Tell them, Mom." My mother, Neith, didn't say a word. She didn't move. She just stood there, her face a mask of pure reptilian shock. She was clutching the cashier's check as the detective gently took it from her frozen fingers. "Evidence," he repeated. "You can't do this." Seti started to yell, his voice cracking. "She's our family. This is a family matter." "It became a police matter the second your mother sent a ransom note," Detective Miller said calmly. "He and his partner cuffed them." The click of the metal handcuffs was the loudest sound I had ever heard. As they were being led out, Seti was still babbling. "Amira, tell them. Tell them it's a mistake. Amira." Neith was silent. She just looked at me. Her eyes weren't sad or sorry. They were filled with a cold, murderous hatred. It was the look of a predator that had just been caught. I didn't say anything. I just clutched my portfolio to my chest. Detective Miller nodded at me. "You did the right thing. It took a lot of courage." I walked out of that building and into the sunlight, my legs feeling like jelly. Khalid's car screeched to a halt, and he ran out, pulling me into a hug. I just stood there, holding my work, and finally let myself cry. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel happy. I just felt a vast, cold, terrible emptiness. The family I had been trying to save my whole life was gone. It had never really existed at all. The fallout was immediate. Ms. Hossan handled everything. Neith and Seti were booked and spent the night in jail. They were released on bail the next day, paid by one of Neitha's rich garden club friends. The restraining order was granted immediately. They were legally barred from contacting me, coming near my home or my office. For the first time in my life, I felt a small, strange sense of quiet. But it didn't last. The jail allows one phone call. Neith hadn't called a lawyer. She had used her one call to leave me a voicemail. I listened to it with Khalid and Ms. Hossan in the lawyer's office. It wasn't a real voice. It was a scream. A long, unhinged tirade of pure rage. "You've done it now," she shrieked, her voice hoarse. "You've destroyed this family. You stupid, selfish girl. You've ruined your brother. You've ruined me. You will drop these charges, Amira. Do you hear me? You will go to the police and tell them you lied. You will fix this. You will fix this." The voicemail ended. The three of us sat in silence. "Well," Ms. Hossan said, adjusting her glasses. "She's not handling this well." I felt a flash of the old fear. Can she still hurt me? She can try, Ms. Hossan said. She will try to ruin your reputation. She'll call your work. She'll tell everyone you're a liar. But we have something she doesn't. What's that? The truth, she said. And a felony indictment. Let her scream. She's just digging her own grave. I took a deep breath. She was right. I deleted the voicemail. Then I blocked her number. I blocked Seti's number. For the first time, I held the block button down and felt powerful. A few days later, a different call came. It was from a man who introduced himself as Seti's court-appointed public defender. Ms. Fayed, he said. My client, Seti, would like to speak with you. Or rather, he'd like me to. I have nothing to say to him, I said. Please, just hear me out, the lawyer said. My client is terrified. Not of jail, but of the people he owes money to. He's safer in custody. And he's willing to make a deal. He's willing to testify against his mother. I paused. Testify about what? Everything, the lawyer said. It seems my client has been unburdening himself. This whole thing was your mother's idea. She's the one who found his betting slips. She's the one who contacted the loan sharks. She was the ringleader, as he puts it. This was new. Why? And here's the twist, Ms. Fayed. The $80,000 wasn't just for Seti's gambling debts. Your brother alleges that your mother has her own debts. Serious, 5-figure shopping debts to luxury department stores. She was trying to use your money to pay off her own secret bills, too, and was going to let Seti take the fall for the full amount. He has texts from her admitting it. I leaned against the wall, my head spinning. Of course. It was never just about Seti. It was always about her. She had been lining her own pockets while pretending to be a worried mother. What does he want? I asked. Protection, the lawyer said. And a plea deal. He'll plead guilty to a lesser charge and testify, if you'll support it. I met with the district attorney and Ms. Hossan. The case was a slam dunk. With Seti's testimony, Neith was facing serious time, several years for extortion, blackmail, and conspiracy. We can put her away, Ms. Fayed, the DA said. She won't bother you for a long time. I looked at the file. I thought about my mother, a woman so obsessed with appearances and her social status, ending up in a state prison. I thought about her, broken and alone, and I didn't feel good. I didn't feel justice. I just felt sad. I don't want her in jail, I said, the word surprising even myself. The DA looked confused. But she. I don't want to destroy her, I said. I want to disarm her. I want this to end. What are you proposing? Ms. Hossan asked, a small smile playing on her lips. A deal, I said. The revenge with heart, as you called it. She pleads guilty to all charges. She serves no jail time, but she gets a long, suspended sentence. Any violation, and she goes straight to prison. She must attend mandatory therapy. That's very generous, the DA said. I'm not finished, I said. The most important part. She must agree to sign over her permanent, irrevocable power of attorney for all financial matters to a court-appointed third-party accountant. She will have no control over her own bank accounts, her house, or her assets. She will be given an allowance. She will never be able to use money as a weapon against anyone ever again. The DA stared at me. You want to put her in a financial conservatorship. I want to take away her bullets, I said. And what about your brother? The DA asked. I had thought about this, too. Seti is a different case. He's an addict. But he's also a grown man who made his choices. He's willing to testify. We can get him probation, the DA offered. No, I said firmly. That's just another handout. That's what my mother has been doing his whole life. It doesn't work. So, what do you want? He has to plead guilty, I said. And he has to serve time. Not in jail, where he'll just learn to be a better criminal. He has to serve a mandatory 6-month sentence in a locked-down, inpatient rehabilitation program for his gambling addiction. A rehab facility, the DA said, surprised. A locked one, I insisted. He can't be allowed to walk out when it gets hard. He has to face his demons. He has to do the work. I won't pay his debts. I won't save him from his creditors. But I will support a plea that forces him to actually get help. Ms. Hossan looked at me with a new respect. You're not just disarming your mother, Amira. You're forcing your brother to finally grow up. It's not revenge, I said, my voice quiet. It's consequences. It's the one thing my family has never had. Faced with a mountain of evidence and Seti's testimony, my mother had no choice. She took the deal. Seti, terrified of his loan sharks, agreed immediately. He was safer in rehab. The day in court was quiet. Neith, pale and thin, pleaded guilty. She looked small. She wouldn't look at me. It was over. 1 year later, the sound of rivet guns echoed across the construction site. I pulled my hard hat down and grinned, yelling over the noise to my foreman. The tension looks good, but let's recheck the west cable anchor. He gave me a thumbs up. I walked back to the trailer, my boots covered in mud. A sign on the door read, Fayed Sustainable Design, LLC. After the trial, I had quit my old job. I couldn't stay there, always looking over my shoulder. I took the biggest risk of my life and started my own engineering firm, specializing in the sustainable, beautiful designs I had always dreamed of. That portfolio my mother tried to burn? It was now the centerpiece of my new office. I was no longer just Amira the engineer. I was Amira the founder. Khalid and I were building our own house, too. Literally. We had bought a small plot of land outside the city, and I had designed it myself, from the ground up. It was all glass and reclaimed wood and light. It was a house with no dark corners, no secrets. My phone buzzed. It was a picture message from Aunt Tetty. She was on a cruise in Alaska, smiling, wearing a beautiful pair of diamond earrings. After the trial, I had used some of my savings to buy her a new pair. Replacing what was stolen, the card had said. She told me it was the first time she had felt free in 30 years. My life was no longer about surviving. It was about building. Our wedding day was nothing like the one I had first imagined. It wasn't in a fancy, cold ballroom. We held it at the Chicago Botanic Garden, on a perfect, sunny afternoon in September. It was small, intimate. Aunt Teddy was there, crying happy tears in the front row. Khalid's family, who had welcomed me as their own daughter from the very beginning, sat beside her. My friends from my new company were there, laughing and drinking champagne. There was no Neith, her face a mask of judgment. There was no Seti, looking bored and entitled. There was no family obligation. There was just love. As I stood across from Khalid, my hand in his, I felt light. The weight I had carried on my shoulders my entire life, the weight of my mother's expectations, my brother's failures, my father's ghost, it was finally gone. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, Khalid didn't just kiss me. He dipped me low and yelled, "I've got you," and everyone laughed. It was perfect. It was peaceful. It was ours. Later, at the reception, as the sun set over the gardens, I looked at the smiling faces of my chosen family. I had learned the hardest lesson of all. The family you're born into is just a starting point. The family you build, the one that chooses you back, that supports you, that respects you, that's the one that matters. As Khalid and I were getting ready to leave the reception, one of the coordinators ran up to me, holding a single plain white envelope. Ms. Fayed, Mrs. Abood. This was delivered for you. My stomach gave a tiny, familiar lurch. It had no return address. Khalid saw my face and took my hand. It's okay. Whatever it is, we'll read it together. I opened it. It wasn't a wedding card. It was a single piece of lined notebook paper, folded in 3. The handwriting was shaky, but I knew it instantly. It was from Neith. I braced myself for another attack, another demand, another wave of guilt. But the note was only 2 sentences. My therapy is going well. I have a part-time job at the library. I read it 3 times. There was no apology. There was no congratulations. There were no excuses. It was just a statement. A small, simple, factual statement. I stared at it for a long time, then slowly, a real smile spread across my face. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't a reunion. But it was something. It was accountability. It was the first honest words she had ever said to me. I handed the note to Khalid. He read it and smiled, pulling me close. It's a start, he whispered. Yes, I said, feeling a final quiet click inside my heart. It is. I tucked the note into my purse. I didn't need it. I grabbed my new husband's hand and pulled him toward the dance floor, toward the music and the light, and into our new life. I was finally, completely free.